What is the strangest thing that happened to you that you can't logically explain? When I was in college, a drunk dude fell from a third floor balcony and got up and walked away like it was nothing. Seriously, one of the weirdest / freakish things I've ever seen in my life. Edit. For those asking, University of Southern California circa 2009. It's getting late, guys. Oh, this is my floor. Jumps. There's kind of an explanation for this. If you were to completely relax your body, then when you fall the force would be distributed more evenly, thus minimizing damage. This is why some babies can survive falling from pretty big heights, but as we get older most of us tense up naturally. Because he was drunk, he was possible super ducking relaxed to the point where he had no tension, allowing him to do what I explained. Yay. I once read a news article about a guy in Russia who drank 2 bottles of vodka and jumped out of a 2-story building, got taken back to his apartment, and did it again. He lived and didn't get hurt. Everything about this comment is everything I've ever imagined Russia to be like. I had recently watched an early episode of Criminal Minds where an arsonist would lock people in their homes before lighting the house on fire. For whatever reason, it kinda got to me. A night or two later I woke up out of a dead sleep and couldn't get that episode out of my mind, so I finally decided to just get up and check the front door. I swear I could not open the door. Unlocked it, but it was totally stuck. I woke up my husband because I was so freaked out. He also tried and couldn't get the door open, and he's a big guy. I ended up climbing out a window so I could push the door from the outside while he pulled from the inside. We finally got it open. I didn't watch Criminal Minds for a long time after that. I really hope this answer blows up, just so thousands of people across the world go and open their front door for no reason. There's at least one. My door is good though. If it makes you feel any better, know you can always escape via a window. Look around the room you are in right now and think of all the things, furniture, lamps, etc. you could use to bash through a window in a pinch. On the not so bright side, that goes both ways. Most windows are suggestions, not barriers. I read some floor lamps had cement in the bottom of them. Who knew? Had a dream that I got a phone call saying my brother, that I haven't seen in 10 years, had died. 2 days later I got a call that he actually had died. My dad claims to have had this twice. Not a call, but he was actually visited by the deceased in a dream. They were always happy in the dream. Then he would learn of their non-illness related sudden death after waking up. I hit a patch of black ice in the dark going 60 miles per hour down the highway. At the time, I drove a 1-ton cargo van. It hit the guardrail and flipped. Not only did I walk away without a scratch, the car was drivable, and I was only 30 minutes late to work. Do a barrel roll. Cool flip, bro. I used to fence the sport, not stolen goods. I was at a tournament and had just started a bout against a competitor. You win the bout by being the first to 5 points. I score what I believe to be first point, but the official indicates the match is over and I've won. I stood there confused for a second, but my opponent seems to agree and salutes and approaches for a handshake, so I go along with it. I check the score record and it says I've won 5-2. Totally lost probably 4 or 5 minutes of time. Hasn't happened since to the best of my knowledge, but it's been 20 years and I still wonder what happened. I had something similar happen to me. I was cleaning my mum's shop, like I had done hundreds of times, and just as I started to sweep, I looked down to the floor already been swept and everything cleaned. Lost like 15 to 20 minutes, still don't know what happened. Brains are lazy and sometimes don't bother to record something entirely routine. Happens a lot to people driving. They just go on autopilot and wake back up once they arrive. I've had it happen when I'm tired and I can't remember the last few minutes of driving, but when I need to do something, like overtake someone or take an exit, then it's like my brain woke up and told me it needed me to make a decision. Also a very good sign that you need to stop driving and have a break. Both of my lungs collapsed at the same time, almost over 50% collapsed, and I was walking around like I was perfectly normal. until I decided to go to the ear for bubble sounds in my chest. None of the doctors could figure out why this had happened to me. They didn't know how I was just up and walking around and laughing. This happened to my brother. He said he was getting a cold, but felt fine. His voice sounded really weird though, and it felt like he had like plastic under his skin in his chest crepitus I guess it's called. Ended up in the hospital for a few days, but felt fine the whole time. Doctors have no idea what caused it. I'm a firefighter, and we got a call for an overdose around 3 AM to a rough part of our district in the middle of winter. Unfortunately the patient was long gone, and her dealer, or whatever, found her like that when he dropped some stuff. As we were packing up our stuff, mind you this is a absolutely trashed mobile home, I hear something down the hall that said lights. I ask my partner if he said anything as it was just him, and I cleaning up he said no. I walk to the far end of the trailer, where I heard it, and shine my flashlight. I get a reflection out of the window. They have a small tool shed, and it had a flickering light. It piqued my interest, so my partner and I go out there. We hear crying, and notice the door is padlocked. We cut it, and this little 6-year-old girl was in there. She said her mom puts her in there when she gets mad at her. She said she got scared when she heard the sirens, and didn't know what to do. To this day I have no idea what happened or where the voice came from, but I'll take the win on it. How horrible for that poor girl. I hope she's in a better family situation now. Time slipped by my friend and I one day. We got a contract in another town and drove out daily for 2 weeks. It was 1 hour to get there and 1 hour back, but one day it took us 3 hours to get back to town. My friend realized something was wrong when his wife called him up asking why he turned his phone off and why he was so late. We left a little before 2 PM and the call came almost at 5 PM. To this day we can't explain it, and to further complicate matters we both have receipts from a gas station we stopped at just before we got on the highway that are time stamped a bit after 2 PM. My theory is that the aliens took us for 2 hours, but who the hell knows. I had that happen once. I worked at a coffee shop and lived a few blocks away, so I normally just walk to work. Takes no more than 10 to 15 minutes tops, and I like to get there early so I can chill and have a coffee before my shift starts. So I left home 45 minutes early, looked at the clock before heading out, and it was 2 o'clock. Walked in the door to my manager asking me why the hell I was late. Looked at the clock, and it was 3 o'clock. There's no way it's even humanly possible to turn a 10 minutes, 5-block walk into an hour. Like I have no idea. I even checked my clocks at home after work, none were off or broken, and it never happened again. I hope your manager sees this, bro. Lol JK, that is weird. I did explain, but she's like, cool story. You're still late, my coworkers and I definitely discussed it and couldn't figure it out, though the idea of me walking so incredibly slow that it took an hour made us laugh. Like, what did other people think I was doing? I had something similar happen. Left my house to go pick something up from the store. I remember driving and leaving my house, but nothing after. I only remember returning home a few hours later. Was only like a 25-minute drive to the store. IDK, what happened in between? I have a vivid memory of being at the Statue of Liberty as a child, on my dad's shoulders, seeing the skyline of New York City. I remember what we ate for lunch that day, etc. I remember the ferry we took. I've always thought about this memory and talked about it, but my family denies I ever went to New York City. I didn't go for the first time until I was 23, but strangely enough, when I went, I remembered everything just how it had been when I was there with my dad. Same. Had a Thanksgiving where my whole extended family came to visit from Minnesota and Wisconsin, live in Michigan, but my whole family denies it ever happening. My uncle even taught me how to throw a punch with my thumb on the outside of my fingers, so I don't break them. I was driving across the US and drove into Salt Lake City. For whatever reason, I got a craving for IHOP, so I punched it into Google Maps and followed the directions to a spot in the middle of town. I walk in, and the place is empty. I don't mean like there were no customers. I mean there is literally not a person in the place. No wait staff, no customers, no cooks, nobody. There was partially eaten food on all the tables, bags and purses in the booths. TVs on everywhere, burgers on the grill slowly burning, and there wasn't a soul in the place, like they all just vanished at once. I was so freaked out I hopped in my car and drove until I hit the Nevada border before stopping to eat. Still have no idea what the duck happened. That's Twilight Zone stuff right there, or the place was robbed and everyone was in the walk-in freezer. LMAO, I love that explanation. People fearing for their lives in the freezer and this confused guy outside just wanting his Rudy Jr. fix. I was just a 6-year-old kid deciding what to do after school while I was in my grandparents' living room. I saw a red flash shoot out of the wall and go from that side to the other wall and into it. A second later a big earthquake hit. I saw some sort of visual shockwave from the earthquake. And no, it wasn't those weird lightning bolt things. In my childish mind I thought that I just saw the Flash the comic book character run through the room. Another cool one that is explained by sheer unbelievable coincidences that I phoned a friend so I hadn't spoken to in at least 3 years and it went to voicemail. After I left a voicemail I saw I had a voicemail notification. It was a voicemail from the person who I just called. The weirdest part is that we must have called each other at exactly the same moment, otherwise it would have done the call waiting thing instead of sending to voicemail. We immediately called each other back and tripped out about how weird that was. Several times when I had a landline, I picked up the phone to call my friend, only to hear her voice already on the phone. Literally picked it up to call her as she called me, so it never even rang on my end. Earthquakes are often preceded by flashes of light like this. Triboluminescence. This happened a couple days ago, and I'm really hoping someone can tell me there is a perfectly logical reason for it to have happened. I got a second monitor, since class is all online now. I was moving my floor lamp when the cement fell out of the bottom. Weird, but okay. I got that lamp from my aunt. I then grab another floor lamp from my guest room that I've had since like 2007, and as soon as I stepped through the threshold to my room, that floor lamp's bottom dropped out. Crazy. I ask my so to borrow one of his he isn't using. Guess what happened when we got to my place with it? Yup, that's right. Bottom fell out. This is gonna be the most boring story on this thread. I can feel it. So this still baffles me, but when I was a kid we had moved into a new house, and while the realtor was showing us around the house I saw a lady sitting at a white dresser in a pink room and she even waved at me, but when I asked my mom who that was she just brushed me off, because she was trying to listen to the realtor. The weird thing is that there were no rooms painted pink in the house and my family just played it off despite me being adamant of what I saw. Anyway, fast forward a few years, and I'm in high school at this point and we start renovating the house, and while stripping the wallpaper in the master bedroom we found out it was painted pink at some point. Still low-key freaks me out. My sister as a toddler/little kid, this lasted probably for 6 to 7 years, used to cry because a blue-faced man in a dirty Jane overalls used to scare her around our property. It got to a point where my mother was convinced a pedophile was stalking her, so she went to the police. After some research and the invention of the internet, my mom discovered that our house sat on the property of an old rancher who had hung himself in his barn because of some legal battle over his land and farm. We are convinced this guy was haunting her. Purple mommy was dating blue-faced daddy. So, one night I had a dream that I was working out in the gym that I regularly go to. In the dream, I was in the normal spot where I work out, exercising, when all of a sudden, the lights in the gym go out. All the TV screens go off. Can't see anything, but, in the dream, it feels like some sort of smoke is filling up the gym, and I can hear and barely see people panicking, running to the exit. Feels like maybe it's a terrorist attack. I start running, trying to get to the exit, and it's getting harder and harder to breathe. Just as I'm kind of hyperventilating and succumbing to the toxic smoke, I jolt awake. Very intense dream that stuck with me. A week later, in real actual life, I'm working out in my gym. And boom, the lights and TV screens go out. It was this incredibly surreal moment where I actually thought I was dreaming again. I stood there stunned for a moment before realizing that the power just went out due to a thunderstorm. It came back on about 5 minutes later. I told a gym employee nearby that I dreamt about this. She laughed politely and probably thought I was insane. Really strange. When I was younger, in elementary school, I used to have the same dream every weekend starting on Saturday, when I would go to sleep and then waking up in the middle of the night on Sunday and throwing up. The dream was always a bunch of numbers. Not even anything happening, just a bunch of random jumbled up numbers all over the place. I never understood why that happened, where the same dream would happen on the same night every week and I would throw up every single time. I always think about it and wonder what it was, or if it was just some weird coincidence. Also, I would not have any signs of being sick before or after. Maybe someone else has experienced this? The numbers, Mason. What do they mean? The only thing I can think of is cyclical vomiting syndrome and it triggering that dream. For context, I used to have cyclical vomiting syndrome when I was younger and it always happened at 6:30. I would wake up feeling extremely, and I could hear my heart in my head. I would then go to the fridge and drink the same juice and go to the bathroom, vomit, fall asleep, wake up, vomit, and then I was all fine. When I was like 8, I had a battery operated lamp that worked for like a week with no batteries in it. These are the stories I love in these threads. Something totally mundane and non-spooky but inexplicable. My Furby worked for 3 years without batteries. Little Ducker was haunted AF, talked at night, would say ducked up shit, and would randomly turn on by itself. No batteries. I happily sold that Ducker with full warning it was possessed. My dad owned a small garden shop, so I'd stay behind the checkout after school till the shop closed. This was until I see a tall man wearing all black, like a trench coat, walking past my dad and smiling at me before going into a staff-only area. I jump up to stop him, even though I was 7. This back area filled with new shipments. I turn the corner but nobody is there. There was no way he could have gone. I ask my dad to check the CCTV after closing, but it's only shown me jumping up and running out of frame. Weird stuff. Never felt comfortable there again. One time when I was little I had a similar experience. I had fallen asleep on the couch and woke up in the middle of the night. When I got up to go to the kitchen, I saw a black silhouette of a woman with a bun and glasses, and she went into the kitchen and I heard all of pans fall. I rush into the kitchen, no one is there and everything is in its place. I know I could have imagined the figure, but I cannot explain the sound of the crashing pans and no one else heard it. They were all asleep. Best I got is having some obscure song in my head and turning on the radio and that song is playing. Or discussing an old movie with a friend and coming home scrolling through the TV at 3 AM and you see that very same movie is playing. Just shit like that, really. In the book American Gods there is a part where they talk about how there's a TV show you might want to try to start watching, but every time you catch it on TV you see the same episode every time. I know it's happened to me several times. Similar pattern to what you're talking about. Driving with the hubby and I see a bunch of bikers having a cookout. Out of the blue, and I don't know why I said this. People look down on bikers, but I bet if the house across the street catches fire this men would run into it to save the little old lady, and I pointed to the house. That was the first time I've ever driven down that street. We just moved to the neighborhood, my husband, and weren't even talking, just listening to music. That night at 2 AM that house that I pointed to burned down and an elderly woman died. Arsehole bikers. Probably just continued grilling. Yeah, I hope the granny left a bitter taste in their mouth. I once shut my ear in a car door. No idea how, have tried to recreate it and can't, but my god that hurt. You deserve something for this. A football helmet to prevent it from happening again. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel for more curated daily Reddit stories.